We're back again with I Survived the Great Chicago Fire, and we are on to Chapter 11. And as you can see, we have left off in Chapter 10 where they have run into the boys in the alley, and so we're trying to find out what are they up to. They're not very nice. Otis had 4 other boys with him, each of them lugging a large sack. Otis was carrying a painting in a fancy gold frame. Oscar immediately understood. Otis and his gang had been looting, stealing from houses whose owners had fled the fire. Oscar pulled Jenny closer to him and held Bruno tight. Maybe the boys would just walk straight by them. Oscar told himself. Maybe they were too busy with their stolen treasure to even notice them. But Otis was the type who didn't miss a thing. His yellow-tinged eyes scanning the alley and then landed right on Jenny. He stopped short and the other boys nearly knocked into him. "Jenny!" he said. He almost sounded friendly. Oscar studied him. The other boys looked around the same age, maybe 14 or 15, and 2 were bigger than Otis. But Otis was the leader without a doubt. For a second, Oscar wondered if Otis wasn't so bad. Sure, he was a crook, but maybe Otis was good to the kids in his gang. Didn't Papa say that Earless treated the guys in his gang like brothers? But Oscar saw that Jenny's hands were shaking. "Hi, Otis," she said softly. "Glad we found you," he said. "We need more hands. It's a big night for us. We won't have to work again for a year." Jenny kept her eyes on the ground. "So come on," he said. "Leave the baby with your buddy there." "I'm not baby," Bruno growled. At least one person here wasn't terrified of Otis. Otis smiled. "Tough kid," he said, spitting on the ground. "We'll take him along too." "No," Jenny said, her face suddenly fierce. Otis raised his eyebrows. "I quit," she said. "You quit?" Otis laughed. A strange high-pitched giggle that raised the hairs on Oscar's neck. He looked nervously at the other boys, who laughed nervously. But then his face went dead. "No one quits my gang," he said in a low voice. "You know that, and that's how it works." Anger rose up in Oscar as he imagined how Otis had gotten all those kids to work for him, how he picked the ones whose parents were gone, who were starving and desperate to stay out of the orphanages, how helpless Jenny must have been when her mother died. She was willing to do anything to keep herself and Bruno out of the orphanage. Even work for that snake. "Leave her alone," Oscar said louder than he meant to. And now Otis turned his menacing stare on Oscar. For the first time he realized he'd seen Oscar before. He smiled chillingly. "You," he said. "You're looking for your suitcases. You think Jenny's gonna get them back for you?" Jenny looked at Oscar in confusion, but then her face seemed to crumble. Otis put the painting down and lunged towards Jenny. "No!" Oscar cried, and before he realized what he was doing, he sprang forward and gave Otis a hard push in the chest. The thug stumbled back, stomping on the painting. Snap! It broke in half. Time seemed to stop. The 4 boys behind Otis backed up, as if they were afraid Otis might explode. And he did. Otis reached into his jacket and pulled out a huge knife. Jenny staggered back, and Bruno went running into her arms. But it wasn't Jenny whom Otis came at with the knife. It was Oscar. Otis sprang forward and placed the blade against Oscar's cheek. Oscar closed his eyes, bracing himself for the slicing metal. But it was Otis's other hand that came swinging up. Smack! His rock-like fist smashed into Oscar's nose. Oscar fell to the ground, the flash of pain in his head burning brighter than the blazing sun. And that's the end of Chapter 11. Stay tuned to find out what happens next.